It's good to have you back here once again, and today we'll continue on this piece that I've been making with the graphite pencils and the charcoal pencil. Thank you for your comments, questions and your likes on my last video that I posted here. And for those who asked questions that had access to my line on WhatsApp and asked questions, I will try as much as possible to answer your questions practically by making a video for you very soon, because I think like 2 persons asked that same question, so I will explain it in a video hopefully next time. But I want us to learn something in today's tutorial. Today I'll be considering tonal values. I think this is one of the things that need to be actually taken care of if you must achieve a good result of realism. And that is why I've decided to consider that this day, and hope that you will learn something from this lesson today. So let's get started. Still the usual pencils, the 2B, the 3B, my soft mounted brush, and well, I'm not too sure if I'll be using the charcoal pencil today, but as you go on, if I use it, you will see that okay, this is the charcoal pencil that I am using. Now you see that this is a real portrait, and you find out that there are different tones. The tone here is different from the one here, and in one of my videos I told you that in shading you have to be subtle in the transition between the light and the dark tones. Now as you can see, there is no clear-cut demarcation between this part and this part. There is a subtle transition along that part. That is the way you shade, and you find out okay that you are doing right, you are doing well. So, and as I said also in the video, that you have to draw in layers. Like this part that you are seeing that look dark a bit, they were not just made once. Is a result of layer upon layer. That is what brought about those dark tones, and you will see that as I continue the drawing now. So let me bring in my 2B pencil. So I'll go with my first layer now. Still the usual method of arching that I use. Without harsh lines. No shade. I'm making it a bit slow so that you will not be confused about how I'm doing the shading. It's just one direction, and as I've said, you don't need to put pressure on your pencil while shading. This is still the first layer that I am making. And in case you are shading and then you suddenly notice that there was a mistake in the middle of your shading, probably because you shook your drawing board or your pressure at a point changed, you don't need to panic. That is why you have your needed, or rather needable, eraser. If there is such instance, let's assume you were shading this way and suddenly when you get to this place you mistakenly shaded it and then you went back to your usual shading. For this particular part here that is dark, you can bring in your kneadable eraser to adjust the tone before blending. That is a good way of dealing with your mistake before your mistake deals with you. So you blot out, you pick up some of the lead of the pencil, you pick them up, put them up with a kneadable eraser, and the thing is you can mold it to any shape you want. So in that process you find out that you have been able to deal with that, and then you'll be able to find out that your blending will be a good one rather than being disrupted by that harsh shade that you had earlier. So let's continue. And one of the things also that you have to learn in art is to be patient. Be patient. No one is chasing you. It's better you are slow and you have a good result than completing a work within few minutes, few hours, and yourself you don't like the result you get. That way you continually get frustrated. I understand that because I've been there also. So these days I don't in any way advise anyone to rush their work. Be patient in your shading. Be patient. Let your eyes not go off your reference picture in the mode of shading. At this point you may not even need to look at your reference picture as such, because I'm still layering the first time. It is the first layer I'm still working on. So let's blend now with the soft mounted brush just lightly. So that is the first layer. Now you want to look at your reference picture and follow whatsoever is there. Now for my reference picture, I want to be showing you my reference picture because it's not something I can show now until after the drawing is completed and hopefully delivered. So let's move on to our second layer. From my reference picture here, I can see that there is a middle tone around here that is lit up. So let me bring in this first. You don't still use lines, you see I'm still making use of shapes, and this is in some respect just going around in circles to bring out what I want to bring out. You remember the circulating method I talked about? That is what I'm doing here now without pressure on my pencil. Now, having made those marks, I can proceed to shading. Within this point and this point, in my reference picture, the middle is still this tone of the first layer, so in some way I will subtly leave that. If you can see very well, you see that I've left it, but it will not be that obvious, so I'll just leave it that way and arch along for the other tone. I'm still using my 3B here. I've said it earlier, in case you are watching this video, you download and you are watching at a convenient time, anywhere you see that it looks like, oh, what is this person doing? It's like he's going forward and back. That is not what I'm doing. You can slow down the video and you realize I'm just going in one direction. Yes, I'm not saying going forward and back is bad, but if you have not mastered the art of controlling or balancing your pressure, you may be spoiling your work that way. Or maybe at the point I might do that to show you in going back and forth, but for now let's just stick to the one direction arching that. And in the course of this, you may notice me using other methods, just like I said that in a drawing you can use more than one method of shading. Just make sure you are shading right and you are getting the tones right. That is what matters. Now let me blend that part where I've done the second layer. Still taking a look at my reference picture, found that I've not gone as dark as it is in the reference picture, so I go back again, another layer. See, at this point I'm making use of circularism because the place is a bit narrow and that will be easier for me to do with circularism. So that is what I'm doing there. So I can return to my arching now to continue. So I come in with my brush again to blend. Still moving on. Let me use my 2B for this part. It's just a bit. Still with my 2B. I'm doing the arching now. Don't forget that I have a reference picture I'm following, and you should, as much as I should, you should also look at your reference picture so that you don't go darker than it is in your reference picture, or even lighter. But just striving and in that as much as possible you are able to follow the tones on the reference picture. So blend with your brush. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you're enjoying what you're seeing. As much as I've said earlier that this channel promises to bring you value, real-time videos where you can actually learn, and even when you have someone who is interested in arts but doesn't have much, that to ask for mentorship from popular artists, that okay, they will charge you, then you can recommend this channel to them, that yes, they can come here and learn. It's all free. What it will only cost is your data, and you know there is really nothing free in this life. All that is that you are gaining. Maybe it is your data that it will cost you, then you have to give it as an artist that desires improvement in his art. So we are moving on gradually. Okay, so let me use my 3B now. This part below the one of the glass is darker. Let me a bit form the shape with this circle using first. Okay, so I can show now. You see, the reason I'm basically using just these 2 pencils and the charcoal pencil, these 2 graphite pencils and the charcoal pencil, is because I know many will say that it is because I don't have good pencils, I don't have expensive pencils, that I'm delaying my art journey. That's why I'm still looking for ways to get materials. Even with cheap materials, you can still get good results if you are determined to get. Yes, it's good to have expensive materials, quality materials. Every one of us will strive to get those things, but as much as you don't have them at hand readily, that doesn't mean you should not do anything. You can still make use of whatever it is that you have at the moment and make do with them and try as much as possible to get good results even using those cheap materials. First, what matters first is the skill you possess. It's not first about the materials, it's first about you. These same two pencils I'm using now, when I started, were the pencils I started with, and at a point I felt, oh, these pencils are the reason I'm not getting good. I abandoned them and went ahead to get some other pencils, started working. But you see that even for this video now, it's the same pencils I'm using. So I came to realize that it is not the pencils, it is not about the pencil, but about my skill. So you have to improve, you have to up, if I may use that word, up your skill, and you realize that the sky is only the starting point for you. This is my tubing. So that even in making the shape of this ear, I'm still not making use of lines. If you watch carefully, I'm making use of shades, the lead of the pencil. That is what I'm doing. Okay, at this point I think I have to come in with my charcoal pencil because of this part that is dark. Even at that, let's shade it well. So blend. You see me changing the way I held my pencil now, so I told you you can hold your pencil anyhow. But what matters most is that you maintain your pressure. That is what matters most. You see that within this part, it looks like there's still a clear-cut differentiation, so I come in lightly to the edge to shade it a bit lightly so that it will fade into the light tone. Yeah, I think I've been able to close it up to some extent. Don't be bored. That is what you tend to get when you're watching real-time videos. You can pause the video, take a stroll, and come back. It's all about learning. It's all about being determined that yes, you want to learn something. So now to the ear. Just trying to bring out the shapes first. or sometimes you may decide to have drawn all this before you start to shade, or you're at freedom, you're at liberty. Just lightly, because once you start layering excessively with graphite, your charcoal will not write, if I may use that word, will not release its substance on your paper. So let's go. Let me just use my General's charcoal soft grade directly. Back to my charcoal pencil. So what I'm doing now is cross hatching. Still don't lose sight of your reference picture. Now I'm coming with my brush and blend lightly, just to make your brush go over it a bit. Now for this part also, this place I'm aligning, though not as dark as the one I just concluded, but I can still use my charcoal pencil also. It is just the number of layers that will differ. So let's do this. I'm going to decide to use the circulating method, since it's a very small part to say. So circulating method can work well in that side. And note, if when you're dealing with smaller places like this, if you have a smaller brush or even a cutting board, you can just use to blend such small places. So let's move on and let's deal with the So let's go with our first layer, 2B. see that I'm not putting on pressure. I'm emphasizing this matter of pressure because once you get it right in your shading, you will not have to worry about so much blending. And the way you can ensure that you learn to balance your pressure well is by constant practice. You have to be consistent. I want to look at my previous video again and maybe use something like that, and then you just take an empty paper before you practice on your drawing. Take an empty paper and practice the shading techniques on it and be sure that okay, yes, I'm getting it right now. Then you can proceed to the real drawing. So let me blend with my brush just lightly. Let's go to the second layer now. Let's move on. Still just continuing the layering here. Now taking a look at this part, I have it to be this way. So one reason I'm not demarcating with line when I want to bring out the shape is because I don't want to start bringing in eraser to erase the line. So I would rather use the lead of the pencil even in tracing out what I need to trace out in differentiating the tones. So this part coming out from this dark part should be darker than the other, than just fading to this side based on my reference picture. That's what I'm trying to do. Make make it fading, I'll not just have an abrupt differentiation. Let, let me come back to this part here. Is it? I need to make it visible. And for this part that I'm tracing out now, so I'll use my charcoal pencil. So that's it. Let's now arch. Even within this dark part, some places are darker than the other, so you must take note of those parts too. So I can come in with my brush. This part that is darker here seems to have gone lighter after blending, so you come back to layer on it again. So let's go back to the graphite pencil. So this part is back to my 2B pencil. Blend with the brush. Make use of my 3B. This place looks a bit so differentiated from the other pencil. Trying to make it fade in gradually. So we're bringing it to a close at this point. I hope you have learned something and you will do well to implement what you have learned. Once again, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. So you have seen that I'm taking you through it step by step. See you some other time.